This webinar is a part of IC Agile Team Facilitation training. And if you would like to participate in face-to-face training of Agile Team Facilitation, please write me a request in my email, and you will get, and I will add you to preliminary list of participants in your location if you're from Luxoft. And when the group is formed, I will send you the invite. Again, my name is Svetlana and I'm working at Agile Practice. And if you would like to get notifications and announcements for our upcoming webinars, you can follow me or add me in LinkedIn. You see here my LinkedIn address. I'm usually writing announcements over there for the upcoming webinars, for my presentations, for my talks on some conferences. Our webinar is called Design and Meetings for Collaboration, and here is the plan for our session for today. First of all, we will see what meeting flow a meeting can have, what parts of meeting can be, what structure of the meeting can be, and what meeting events can come one after another. We will also see meeting checklist, and you can use it for your meetings preparations then. We will also explore questions to sponsors. Sponsors are the people who are ordering the meetings from you. For instance, if your manager is telling you, hey, Alex, please make a meeting with your team about performance, then your manager is a sponsor of the meeting. Your manager is someone who is asking you about the meeting. And we will see what questions should be asked to sponsors to make the meeting effective and to spend the meeting time efficiently, and to meet the results, to meet the expected results by the sponsor. We will also have a look at different meeting organizing tools, the instruments that help you during the meeting. I will also show you the video on graphic facilitation, and I hope that after this video you will be able to draw something during your meetings to make a graphic representation of what people is saying during the meeting. We will also investigate do and do not of graphic facilitation. What are good examples of graphic facilitation and what is not good examples. Also, I will show you the meeting structure template and the sample. I will fill in the template with the techniques and explain the facilitation techniques used in this template. Also, I will show you the possible agenda for the meeting and to tell you a few words how to form it. Also, we will have a look at Facilitator Guide, a very important instrument for meetings. Then we will have a question and answering session and the attendance code. So let's start. Here you see the structure of the meeting flow. It starts with design phase. It is the second block over there. So you design a meeting, you make some preparations, you try to understand what is the meeting about. This is very high-level structure. We will go deeper into detail during our webinar, but it is how it looks as a big picture. So you spend some time on preparations, and it is design phase. Then it is conduct phase. And conduct, it is the most important part of the meeting, consists of 3 blocks: exploration of information, evaluation of information, and decision-making over information. That you explored, evaluate, and then you need to decide what you are going to use from this information, what you are going to do. Then the adopted results, and then you again base your design on the adopted results. And again, to conduct, like trying on practice your evaluated results, trying on practice something that you have prepared. Here you can see also for exploring information block. You see different techniques like discussion, brainstorming, mind mapping, world coffee, hand signals, round robin. I will not go deeper into these techniques because it is usually explored during our face-to-face training, and we are practicing these techniques. You need to try it on practice to be able to use it, but you can read the description over the internet and to get some idea of it. For this slide, it is very important to understand the general structure of the meeting, and here are some examples of the techniques. For evaluation, it can be screening matrix, we will talk about it today, affinity line, pro-con analysis, Pareto analysis, worst burst analysis, and Cartesian coordinates. If you will need more information on these techniques, you can write me into questions, and I will send you the description of the technique over the email if you would like. If you haven't found any technique in the internet, or you will need more information on the techniques itself. During our webinar, we will talk about designing. It's structured, more high-level view than techniques itself, and techniques we are practicing during our face-to-face part of the training. For the decide part, very well to use multi-voting, room voting. About room voting, we were talking during our last webinar, the previous one. Fist of 5 and consensus. So here is the structure, how the meetings can go. I have some questions and I'm going to read it. Some people saying that I was muted for a while, but if you have any problems with sound, if I see that lots of people are having problems with sound, then I will try to do something with it. But if there is one person out of 60, then probably it were some issues over your internet connection, because I'm tracking the sound, and if there will be many questions on it, I will react definitely. So we are going to the next slide. And the next is meeting design checklist. When you are preparing some meetings, and as you already know, that preparation, like design phase, is very important for the meeting. So when you're doing design phase, you should have this checklist or any other checklist to make sure that you remembered that you included all the necessary blocks into the meeting. First of all, in checklist, you should know the topic and the goal of the meeting. Definitely, we should know why we're organizing this meeting. You should also work out agenda and structure of the meeting. What will be the first part of the meeting? What will come next? What we will do before the break? When the break will happen? What we will do at the end? Then you should list participants that are necessary for your meeting and identify stakeholders or sponsors. It is the decision makers, the people who can make decisions during the meeting, because if there are only participants and the meeting needs some decision making, then there is no use of this meeting. You can explore information only, evaluate information, and then probably you need to invite some people who can decide something on the input that you're providing. Then you prepare agenda and meeting structure. I have double here, the double items. Set timings in meetings. It is important to know what part of the meeting will take what time, because no one would like to stay on the meeting longer than expected. But you as a meeting organizer should make sure that you are able to include all the necessary activities in the meeting. So you just set timings for introduction of the meeting, for instance, first part of some presentation over the meeting, again, for all breaks, for all coffee, for all lunch. If you have some lunch during the meeting, you need to include the break over there. If you changing the room for the meeting, it should be also set up in timings schedule. So you schedule all the activities that you have during the meeting. Then you define tools and techniques that you are going to use on the meeting. For instance, if for explorations you're going to discuss you're going to use World Cafe technique, you set timing for World Cafe, for instance 20 or 30 minutes, and describe the instruction, how you're going to use it. Then you define input and output documents. If you need some for instance, matrix on responsibilities for this meeting, then someone should prepare that matrix. Or some metrics on regression testing. If you need to discuss some test cases during the meeting, you should have some documents as an input. For instance, for product backlog refinements, it can be the list of user stories, right, that you're going to discuss the meeting. For review meeting in Scrum, when you're going to present your results to product owner, you need a list of user stories that you are ready to present. And the output documents. What documents should come after the meeting? For instance, for sprint planning, it can be sprint scope document. What user stories you are going to take into the sprint. You should also arrange environment. If you need a projector, for instance, for a meeting, if you need up and running computer from which you are going to connect to your work machine, then it should be also in the room. Markers, if you need a flip chart, a board, also should be arranged. And definitely you should work out a plan B. For instance, what will happen if you need a projector but there is no projector? What will happen if you need a flip chart and there is no flip chart? So you should identify some mitigation risk plan, and it is the plan B for you. For instance, if someone will not be able to come to the meeting, some stakeholder, are you going to cancel the meeting or it will continue? But someone can make decisions for these people, for this stakeholder, someone can cover for this person. It is about preparation block checklist. For conduct, you need some opening of the meeting, introduction of yourself. You're saying who you are, why you're having this meeting. You're introducing participants to one another. You can do it using some facilitation techniques, some warm-up technique. Then you gather information using some techniques, explore meeting subject matters and objectives, evaluate resulted data, make decision, and do closing of the meeting. You are saying thank you to everybody and telling people how they how they will get some follow-ups of the meeting. For instance, as for this webinar, I'm telling to you that you will get the recording into your email and you will get it within 10 days. So there should be some closing. Then you write follow-up. It can be minutes of the meeting, and during our webinar I will show you the example of it. You track commitments to its resolution. If something was decided during the meeting, then you track these decisions. If someone, for instance, promised you to answer the following list of questions to the user story, so you need to track that this person provided the information. For instance, the business analyst should provide some information to a developer, and you as a meeting organizer should make sure that this happened. And you can also in the follow-up inform about next events. If it is a set of some meetings, then in the follow-up, when you write a follow-up, you will tell the people when the next meeting will take place. And now we are coming to list of questions to sponsors. So again, sponsors are people who actually ordered this meeting from you. You can be yourself a sponsor if it is you who need this meeting. For instance, when product owner needs the team to investigate product backlog, product owner is a sponsor of the meeting. But on the same time, the team is also sponsors of the meeting because the team needs to understand the requirements that they're going to develop during the next sprint. But if someone would like you to make a presentation to your clients about your results, about your next steps on the project, this person will be a sponsor to you. Probably it will be your manager. Then your manager is a sponsor, and you should find out from him or her the following questions. What is the primary purpose of the meeting? Because you can have your own vision of the meeting purpose, but if this meeting is ordered for you to conduct, then you should know the primary purpose. What are the desired objectives? Because then this person, the sponsor of the meeting, should get the desired objectives after the meeting. What decisions, if any, will be made at the meetings? Are these meetings just for discussion, for information gathering, or some decisions should be made? For instance, decisions about release scope or release planning, decisions about our improvements, we will need to get an improvements backlog after retrospective. And we will need to decide what improvements we will implement. So it is also about decisions. How much can the group realistically expect to accomplish? What it is meant. If, for instance, we have 1 hour meeting and you feel that, for instance, the team will not be able to do the requirements investigation during this 1 hour, probably you need to tell your sponsor that we will not be able to do it during this time slot. Let's organize 2 meetings for 1 hour. So you should also communicate your opinion about the meeting slots and about the readiness of the people to participate in this meeting. For instance, if you're making some technical workshop to a team and half of the team is juniors and you're providing some very complicated technical information to these people, probably there is no sense to do it for the whole team. You need to provide this complicated information to the part of the team and then create some beginners technical workshop for junior people. How you will know it has been successful? So how the people who ordered the meeting from you will know that the meeting happened successful? Participants and roles. So who are the group members? Who you will need to present on the meeting and who your sponsor would like you to invite to the meeting? Because you probably don't know some people that the sponsor know, and sponsor can think that you will invite them, but actually you don't even have their contacts. So find out what are the necessary group members, what are the background of the individual and organizations. Again, if you are inviting some technical specialists about the meeting on budgeting, probably you will need to add there some management as well. The technical specialist will estimate the requirements and the budgeting decisions will be done by the management who knows the budgets of the project. So you should know what people are coming to your meeting and does the people background meet the meeting purpose? What are the interpersonal dynamic, what it is meant? Has the group meet already with one another? Do these people know one another already? Is there any interpersonal relations between these people? Who will serve as the meeting leader? Who will conduct the meeting? Because facilitator is a neutral person and facilitator can't demand anything from participants. He or she just organizing the meeting, providing the structure of the meeting, but probably there should be some leader of the meeting. And again, is the facilitator neutral and perceived as such? Because if the facilitator is actually a sponsor of the meeting and has his or her own intentions or purposes for the meeting, he or she can't be neutral for the meeting. And it should be clearly communicated to the meeting participants. What decision-making authority does the group have? To what level of decisions the group can come? What decisions can be made by this group of people? Will there be other people helping? For instance, for our trainings in Luxor, there is always ladies from help desk. They're making coffee breaks for us, so these people can help you, and you should know about it. Will the appropriate people be present to finalize decisions? Again, about decision making. Are you going to invite the people just for information gathering and evaluation, or there should be some decisions made during the meeting? Logistics, it's mostly about environment. Where the meeting be held? Do you have the appropriate room for instance, if you're having a meeting for 15 or 20 people, you should have the appropriate room with the appropriate ventilation system. So take care of it beforehand. Who is the contact person for the logistic arrangements? Maybe you should contact our training center to order the room for your meeting. What is the most appropriate location? Is it appropriate for everybody to go to this room? To this, maybe it is somewhere outside or in some other office and you invited people from the second office and there is no enough time for them to reach the first office. What kind of space, furniture, lighting, again, necessary for the meeting? Do you need tables for the meeting? Because sometimes it is much more convenient to put people in round on chairs and don't have tables between them if you don't need to make any writing. What are the starting and ending times? Are there breaks? Have arrangements been made for food and beverages? About food and beverages, if you're ordering anything for meeting participants, make sure there is no vegetarian people or people with some allergies to some food, because then during the lunch, some people will be eating the lunch and some people will be watching at the people who are eating the lunch. So make sure about food and beverages preferences as well. Is there any equipment needed for the meeting? Again, maybe it will be projector, markers, a board, a flip chart. What is also helpful for you to have on the meeting is meeting organizing tools. And here there are some of them. Ground rules. It is a list of rules that you are going to use during the meeting. For instance, respect the speaker can be the ground rule. It means that when the person is speaking, no one else is interrupting him or her. Or for instance, a ground rule can be come in time and leave in time. It means that all participants come in time to the meeting and leave in time when the meeting is ending at the defined time. All the meeting participants should agree with the ground rules. So you can present your list of ground rules to people and they then ask them to vote for this. Are they okay about these ground rules or not okay? If not, probably you should add something or remove something from the ground rules you prepared. Or you can create ground rules if time allows right away during the meeting. Las Vegas, what it is mean. Las Vegas can be one of the ground rules. It is meant what is happening during our meeting stays in the room. What is happening in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. It means that we are not discussing the information that we got during this meeting. If there is some financial information, if there is some personal information that we were discussing during the meeting, it means that you are not supposed to discuss this information with someone else except the meeting participants. So you can have this Las Vegas ground rule as well in your ground rule list. There is also too good to have parking lot. It is a flip chart where you write down the topics that are not directly linked to the current topic of the meeting. For instance, during some requirements discussion, you have found out that there is some integration issue with the third-party team, and probably you don't need it right away. But if some risks appear, you will need to know how to make this integration, and you can write it as a parking lot item, and then after the meeting you will go with the meeting participants through the all parking lot issues and decide what to do with them. For instance, if you are showing during the review some functionality to the client, one story by one story, one feature by one feature, and you see there are some bugs, probably you should write it down into the parking lot, and then after the meeting you can discuss it with the QA team what to do with these bugs that were found out during the review session. Or for instance, during retrospective, you have found out that everything is mostly fine. You have identified the list of improvements, but the team raising one issue about team building, that the people need team building. Then you write it into the parking lot, and then you can have one more meeting or some voting or prepare some plan for meeting for team building event. It's again come to the parking lot, the issues that are not directly linked to the topic of the event. After the meeting, you can create an action plan. You write who, do what, when, and if necessary, how. For instance, Alex should prepare test cases by the June 30 or by the July 30. It can be any date here that Alex agree on. And how? You can write here the steps how it should be prepared. The AHA flip chart. You just write a flip chart and write at the top of the flip chart AHA. if some interesting ideas came to the participants during the meeting, they can put it over there as well as to parking lot. And then after the meeting, you can discuss it. You can also create a so-called meeting net. Probably you see it in some detective stories, some detective movies, where the main detective, he's putting the crime scene on the wall, and then all the artifacts that connected to this main crime scene round this crime scene. So you can put here, for instance, the question about team building, and then put here some participants, why you are going to have this team building, some possible dates, how it can happen, where the places for team building, what, for instance, you can do, what activities you can do during this team building to prepare this meeting or team building net. Now we came closer to facilitation, graphic facilitation, and I would like to show you the video on graphic facilitation. It is quite short, no more than 5 minutes, and I hope that after this video you will find out in yourself some drawing skills that you are able to draw. Probably you will get more belief in it. Just a second, I will put it on.
We're all visual thinkers, and we can all draw. You can also draw. You don't need to be an artist when drawing and working with people in meetings, projects, or processes. You just need to learn some basic elements. If you can draw these simple shapes, you can draw anything. You can also take it to the next level. Practice the following 7 basic elements whenever you draw in meetings, projects, and processes. Element 1. People. First things first. In any drawing, start with people. Show who's involved. We like to identify ourselves in any picture. Draw a star, not just any star. This one. With this shape, you can create persons in many variations, like this. With just a few strokes, you can create impressive icons which people will remember. Element 2. Place and time. Context matters. We like orienting ourselves in space and time. Avoid details. Just make a square and 2 lines down for a signpost, or labels. You can also indicate a place just by adding a platform. A flat horizon line will indicate inside, a curved outside. Element 3. Process. You often want to show what happens or how something unfolds. To do this, simply use arrows. Simple ones can do, but different arrows create different meaning. Element 4. Speech. Now you can show people in process from A to B. You can add depth and life by showing what people are saying, thinking, and feeling. Here are simple speech and thought bubbles which will do the job. Element 5. Text. Writing adds vital information to your drawings, but remember, less is more. Use as few but as precise words as possible. Write clearly and use size, style, shape, and color to indicate meaning and value. Use bullets in different shapes. They help separate information and make lists easier to read. Element 6. Color. Colors help us navigate the information we see. Use color to make things stand out, show relations, and add energy. Dark colors are great for text. Bright colors are great to highlight with. Colors can add meaning to a simple illustration and add depth to a story. Element 7. Effects. With just a few lines, you can add energy, attention to certain important parts, movement to objects, emotions and moods to people, and depth and contrast to content. Now you're ready to make the 7 elements work together. First, you start by drawing the people involved. Second, you place them somewhere with platforms and signs. Thirdly, you show the process. Then you add speech bubbles and text, showing what people are thinking and or saying. Finally, add color and effects to give depth and life to the poster. With these 7 building blocks, you can build stories. Here you have a story of a person getting training, overcoming obstacles, and reaching a goal. Using just 7 elements, you're now able to turn a white canvas into a powerful presentation tool or an engaging dialogue tool. Now you just need to add the 8th element, your own visual language. Visuals specific to your area of work. What do you need to be able to draw in a simple way? Strategy, diversity, green growth, or... Watch the video 8th element.
So it was a video about graphical facilitation. I hope you liked it. Some people would like me to send the link of this video to you, and I will do this. And you can find more videos on graphic facilitation on YouTube. Just put graphic facilitation into the search. It will provide you more information. But I will, this video will remain in the recording of the webinar, and I will send you the link to this video in the email where I will be providing the recording of the video. I have also got the question, how many people we can have on the meeting in order it to be productive? Actually, it depends on how many facilitators you have for the meeting. I was conducting workshops on conferences for 50 people, for 40 people. It was 2 hours and 4 hours workshops, and I think it was quite productive. I mean, if you structure the meeting well, first I was alone, the only facilitator and the conductor of this workshop, but then I was with another person who was helping me out. So I would prefer to have someone helping me out for 40 and 50 people, but for 20 people it is quite okay to prepare the meeting well, to prepare the structure well. If you have this list and every event is going as it is written in the list, then it is fine. But then if you have any problems, for instance during the meeting, then you will need someone to assist you. So it is good to have assistance for 40-50 people, but for 20 you probably can conduct it alone, and there are lots of techniques, facilitation techniques, that are quite well for a huge number of people. Workshops can be a bit different from the meeting, but at the same time, during the technical meetings where you provided some information to people, you're also teaching people somewhat, and during workshops you're also teaching some people. But yes, during the meeting probably there are some other goals than during workshops. To have meeting effective, it depends more on preparation and the level of facilitator. So good facilitator, I think, can effectively conduct meeting for 40 and 50 people. But if you don't have lots of facilitation skills and don't know lots of techniques, just try to do the meeting first for 5 people, then for 10 people, then for 15 people, to increase your level of facilitation. And again, it also depends on the group dynamics. If the group is in a storming phase, then probably you will need more time to deal with them. If the group is in the performing or numbing phase, you will need less time to deal with them. So it depends. There is no like the only answer to this question. You should try and see the results, and then again, as we said over there during our presentation, you should try to design the meeting, to conduct the meeting, document the results, and then to make the evaluation of the meeting, right? To see how it went. If it went fine, then it is okay, but if not, then you should probably change something into the meeting. I'm talking about these diagrams. So design, conduct, document, evaluate, and adopt it as well. There are more questions coming, but I need to go further with the webinar. I will answer these questions in the email probably, or at the end of the webinar if we will have time. Now we will come back to facilitation topic, to graphic facilitation topic. And here there are do and do nots for the facilitation. First of all, when you're writing some titles, write it in capital letters so the people can see what is the main idea. Like here it is written agenda. Try not to align letters. Try to make it straight. So straight letters are usually easy to read, like in this first image of agenda, not in the second. Also, write in plain letters. There should be any curves, so don't do curves in letters or in numbers because it is difficult to see it, what it is written. As you see here, there are two examples. The one is titled agenda and the other one is Thursday day, probably it's something like this. And as you see, the second one is very hard to read. Lots of colors are used and this is good, but the letters are written in such a way that probably the only person who can read it is the one who writes it. So make sure that your writing is able to seen and understood by other people of the meeting. More examples. Don't use only one color. Mono means monotonous. One color, it is monocolor, and it means monotonous. So it is quite difficult to read then. You can compare it with another agenda flip chart, and you can see that here you have some icons, you have more colors. It is formatted very well with the lists, and it is much more easy to read than the first Eco House example. Also use dark colors for general information, as it was said in the video that we have watched, and use bright colors to highlight something. Use plain formatting, use bulletin, use for instance stars if you need to underline something out of the list that, for instance, in this case, instruction for newcomers is the most important page that should be created out of this list. Outline, for instance, titles like Kanban practices here is outlined. Use margins for the list in order if you it makes your writing more accurate if you use margins for the lists. Also use banners for titles. Use arrows for connections. As you see, these arrows are very, very easy to draw. And use icons for animation. I like to use lamp, for instance, or email icon. It's very easy to draw and make your writing, your facilitation more interesting to the participants, and then more easy to read after the meeting. About flipchart. Title flipchart pages. If you use several flipchart pages during the meeting, make sure that you know what is coming after what. Then you need to add some titles to the pages. Make sure that people read what you write, because sometimes I see that like facilitator is writing some minutes on the flipchart and no one is looking at it. It means that people will not do the actions that are written on these flipcharts because they're not agreeing to it. So when you're writing something on flipchart, make sure that people watching you, how you're writing, and saying, okay, we're fine with what you're writing. And make sure that the people afterward are able to read it, what is written by you and by your handwriting. Add one more flipchart. What it is mean? Sometimes when people see that the flipchart is ending, when there is end of the flipchart, they can stop generating the ideas. They can start thinking that that is the end and that is the bottom of the meeting. That is the bottom for this ideas generation list. So you can just use the Scotch and add more flipchart at the end of the flipchart paper. It's just a trick. I would like to ask Bucharest team who presented on face-to-face meeting. There is exercise for Bucharest team. They will, probably some of the participants are already on this webinar and some of them will listen it in recording. But anyway, I will await from Bucharest participants of the face-to-face training that happened nearly a month ago to draw me a banner, to watch this video. It is about banner drawing, and to draw me a banner and to send the photo of this banner to me. Definitely it is not about like that I need a banner drawing from you, but what I would like to get from you is your belief that you can draw, because sometimes when I am showing this banner video to the groups during face-to-face trainings, they say, oh no, we can't draw this. But then they start, and after 5 minutes they draw really great banners. And for banners you can use for meeting titles, like here, right? And you can use it for agenda, for instance, title, this banner. So there is an exercise for Bucharest team. If you would like to draw a banner and you are not from Bucharest team, you can also draw it and send it to me, the picture of it. Also, if you're interested in more information about data visualization, about infographics, you can watch my webinar about power of visualization. Here is the link to this webinar, and I probably will add this link so it will be able for you to copy easily into the email with the recording of this webinar. So there is a webinar on the graphic facilitation and in general on data visualization, and you can watch it as well. Here is the infographic of Scrum. This webinar doesn't deal with the Scrum, but here is just the picture how the Scrum can be visualized, how the Scrum framework can be visualized. Now we will talk about the template for the meeting. So every meeting, it is good when the meeting has some opening part, some exploration part, some evaluation, decision making, and closing part. And you can use it as a template to fill it with the techniques, the facilitation techniques that you know. For instance, here you can use facilitation technique tribes. I will show you the instruction how to do it. Here 6 thinking heads, here screening matrix, here consensus, and here action items. So this is just a template, and it can filled in with the facilitation techniques. So the first technique used here is a warm-up, it is tribes, and here is the description of this technique. Every person stands out of the group and saying his name, his position, and his hobby or something that this person is like doing, and then saying, okay, who also do this? It means that this person, these people will become his or her tribe. These people came to this person who is standing out of the group, give him high five, and then another person is coming out of the group and saying again, hi, I'm Svetlana, I'm Agile coach, and my team and me personally enjoy going to the cinema. So, and people who enjoy going to the cinema come to me, we are making high five, and then the next person is coming. In such a way, people get introduced to one another in a gameful format. Another technique from our sample, it is 6 thinking heads, and it is used for information exploration. So tribes is used for opening, and for information exploration we can use 6 thinking head. This technique, I will provide very high level description of each of these technique, but you can again find it over the internet. This technique is focusing on different views on the same problem. For instance, you are discussing whether you need Scrum on your project or not. There is some person who is wearing white hat. This person knows lots of facts about Scrum. It can be Agile coach, for instance. Then there is the person who is eager very much to have Scrum on the project, and he or she provides lots of benefits. There is also black hat, as usually, and this person provides some information about the risks to have a Scrum on the project. Usually it is good to ask someone who is already in black hat most of the time, because there are people who are usually criticizing something, to ask them to wear yellow hat and not black hat, and to give to black hat to someone else. There is also green hat, and you can use, instead of hats, you can use a piece of paper in different colors and to distribute it among participants. And green hat focuses on creativity, about something that were not said again, that were not said already on the meeting, on something new. And also green hat is focusing on next steps. So okay, we have this information, we have pro and cons, what we will do next, and green hat generates the next steps ideas. There is also blue hat, and blue hat, it is actually a facilitator. Blue hat is neutral hat who is just moderating the process. Blue hat is moderating that white hat is telling facts, the yellow hat is telling positive stuff, the black hat is telling risky stuff, green creativity and next steps, and yellow hat is focusing on feelings, on intuitions about how the person feel about some idea. For instance, the person saying, okay, Scrum is more or less good, but I feel that I don't like any changes on the project because I feel anxiety about it. I think that for now I'm feeling safe, but if the changes happen, probably it will come to some overtimes after this, or I will need to change something in my work. And like person is telling about his own perception of the situation. He's not criticizing, or she's not criticizing, or not saying benefits of the situation, but how he or she feels. There are lots of information on this technique, and you can read it. And there are lots of also videos on YouTube about Edward de Bono and this technique. So the technique again is called 6 thinking hats. There are questions about this technique, but I'll probably again will answer it after the webinar or in the email, because we have 12 minutes left. The next technique that we use in our example for information evaluation, it is screening matrix. So you can evaluate information. For instance, evaluate user stories using this matrix. You will identify the user stories that are very easily to implement and bring you, for instance, lots of business value. So you can focus on these user stories first, then you can come to the user stories and think about maximizing its value. It is the user stories that bring you low business value, but they are very easily to implement. So you can think about how to maximize its value. And then you can think over the story that brings you lots of business value. The business value is very high here, but it is very difficult to implement. It is quite difficult to implement. So probably you should split it down, or you should do something with these user stories to reduce its difficulty of implementation. And here there is some user stories or features that you can stay away because they bring you little business value and they're very difficult to implement. You can distribute any lists of yours into this matrix, just a prioritization matrix that can be filled with anything. Here we have business value, and you can have here something else, and here we have difficulty of implementation, and again you can use it for during your product backlog refinement, or you can use it, for instance, for retrospective. Here can be not the business value, but the value for the team. Okay, so it can be action items for the team to do to improve their process. Some items can be very easily to implement, and some can be very difficult to implement and brings practically no value to the team. So it's up to you how to use it. And the last technique is the consensus. Not the last, but the one before the last. So it is consensus. Consensus is a group decision making. You can use it for the meeting to make decisions. For instance, if you decided that you use the variant of consensus where more than half of the people is agree on something, then you are taking this decision. But you first should ask the group, is the group okay to use the consensus in such a way? I mean, if you decide as a group that you would like that everybody is agreeing on some statement, on some idea, then you should discuss the idea till everybody is agreeing on it. But if you're okay with having most of the people agreeing on the idea, then you can use this kind of consensus. Or you discuss with the group the possibility to accept the idea if 80% of people is accepting it and 20 is not accepting. So first, the consensus rules should be identified. Usually we are making decisions when the majority is okay with the decision, but it is just one variant of consensus. You should first discuss this variant with the group. The last part of the meeting is writing meeting notes. So here we can again come back to our template and see that in our template it can be in closing part. And in our sample, it is action items that are written in the format what, done by whom, and by when. So here is our meeting minutes. There is a date of the meeting minutes. There is attendance list, who present on the meeting. There is some goals, and there is discussed items. So there is the item, there is the person who is committing to this item, and by when this meeting this meeting item will be prepared. On the next meeting, we are going to discuss, to review these meeting notes to make sure that we meet our commitments. So it is very important to write some action item lists after the meeting, because it is not enough just to discuss something, and you need some output of the meeting. And meeting minutes can be the first output, and the second output can be actions itself that are written down into the meeting minutes lists. There is a couple more topics left. It is the sample of the agenda for the meeting. So, and again, sample agenda for the meeting, it is the preparation block of the meeting. As you probably remember, we have, I'm just trying to link all the information that we already learned to the new information coming. It is the way that people usually better to remember the information. So the meeting agenda is come to design block. So when you're making the meeting agenda, it is the preparation for the meeting. And the meeting agenda can be then sent to all the meeting participants so they know what is going on, what is coming. So just a sample agenda, introduction of the participants, some warm-up, and then you can start with some items that are necessary to discuss on the meeting. Then you have a break, again, a couple of items that you need to discuss during the meeting lunch. Again, items, break. So it is written with timings because it is for the day, for the whole day training. But for instance, as you see, I have prepared for the webinar the agenda without timings. But again, so you were sure when you will, for instance, get your attendance code, that it will be at the end, and then there will be QA session, and then you will see all the lists that we are going to come through during the webinar. So agenda is very important for participants and for you when you're preparing. If you prepare some training, for instance, or some event, for instance, team building event or town hall event for a day or more, then you can write a facilitator guide. Again, here will be meeting title, meeting purpose, meeting participants, duration, sponsors, and then one by one came the items that will happen on the meeting. Here you will write not only the timing and not only the title of the meeting, but you will write the instructions. For instance, if you're going to use 6 thinking hat, how you're going to do this, because there hardly be only 6 people on the meeting. Probably there will be 12, or there will be 20, or there will be 3 people of the meeting. If you're going to use 6 thinking hat, you should think about how you're going to apply it to a particular group and write the instruction to yourself, because during the meeting you will not have time to map the technique to the team. You should do it a bit beforehand. Then you write the duration, how much time it will take, the materials. For instance, if you're going to use a physical hat, then you can prepare this physical hat. For some trainings, we're preparing hats from paper and then color it with markers. Then you need to write down some materials and then probably some commands, some notes that you would like to have for yourself. Questions. So I have a questions. How to use sick thinking head on the meeting. Sick thinking head is good to use on the meeting when you need to explore the information from different angles. Again, it can be when you don't need to make any decisions with this information right away, but you can only think about something. For instance, if you're going to think about some implementation approach, there are usually lots of pros and cons about using some new technology, about using some new database, about using anything new on your project. You can first use this thick thinking technique to discuss it in this format and then come to evaluation. You can evaluate the ideas that you get with thick thinking heads technique. The main idea of this technique is to get together and to generate as many ideas as possible, because sometimes people are very stick to some head. There are lots of people who stick to black hat, who are usually just criticizing, and there are lots of people who are just see the good side of something, who are seeing just the benefits of anything. You can just mix them up to shift them in positions a bit. There is also a question about how long can normal meeting last, again, and how many topics in Agile practice you propose to discuss during the meeting. Well, I usually propose to discuss no more than 3 topics, because it's difficult for people to have in mind more ideas. But you know, if you have, for instance, one meeting for 1 hour and discuss 3 ideas, and then you have a break, and then you can come again to the next meeting and discuss the next idea. So it is usually good to have meetings no more than 1 hour and a half, then have a break for 15-20 minutes, and then come back. But again, it depends on the group. If people have their work, some development work, and they will need to save something on their project, and they don't want to have these meetings right away, then they will not be able to focus on the meeting. So organize your meeting well, make breaks, make clear agenda, and make sure that people are knowing what they are talking about. For instance, if you organize a stories grooming session and there is no business analyst on this session, there is no product owner on this session, probably people will not be able to discuss the requirements very well without this person. So my answer is just 3 topics for 1 meetings, like 3 user stories for 1 meetings during 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. It can be better than to focus. But if people know the meeting items very well, then probably they can discuss more items. So start with 3 and then see how it is going on. Probably next time you can have 5. To a bit general questions, I can answer only a bit generally. If the question is more particular,